Welcome to the What's Happening Birmingham video podcast.
Hello everyone, this is Jarvis Escott with What's Happening in Birmingham. Today I am back with Alice Gordon Holloway. She is the CEO and problem solver, wouldn't change that, executive problem solver of Sky Connect Incorporated. Alice, thank you again.
Thank you for having me.
I had to drag her back again because I had this idea from the last segment. I was like, well, maybe I'm going to do a part two, but I did warn her.
Yes.
One of Alice's expertise, her company's expertise is crisis management. And we hear that so much in the news, and especially if you are a successful company, you're going to have a crisis at some point, whether it's, intended or unintended. Mm-hmm. What, just based off your experience and expertise, what are some things companies can do when a crisis happens?
First of all, what they can do is plan in advance. Okay. Is to kind of prep themselves that at any moment in time a crisis couldn't happen. And you mentioned it earlier that it's unexpected, uncomfortable, and just uncompromising occasionally. And so we have to make sure that you're prepared for it. So I would suggest act as if the worst could happen at any time, at any moment, and plan accordingly. That means write out an action plan that says if something happens with this particular process, write down, okay, step 1, we're going to address this process. Step 2, we're going to call these 4 people. Step 3, we're going to shut this process down. Step 4, we're going to do this. It's very methodical how you handle a crisis. And I tell you, when I went to Illinois, to the Illinois Department of Transportation, I spoke about this for a couple of hours. And there's so many pieces to it. There's so many things you should do in the first 20 minutes of a crisis. It's so many things you should do in the first 24 hours of a crisis. It's so many people you need to connect with. It's so much thing you have to do with your employees. It's so much to handle with your customers, and also too social media. Social media has changed the game. I remember being at a conference and I heard that people saw this airplane with smoke coming out of the window. And when you see that, first thing you think is on fire. Well, that particular photograph was probably posted maybe 20 seconds after it happened. There was really no caption, really no information, but all you saw was this picture. And the picture spoke a million words. Okay. So before the airline had a chance to react or respond, social media had already picked up this particular photograph and carried it on. So it happens all the time. So now, because all of us have these computers in our pockets and our purses and on our person, you can videotape any moment in time. So that makes everybody a reporter. And so it does change the game and how we handle it. So I know that writing out a business plan or an action plan around crisis is not something everybody wants to do, but it's a necessary function of a business to be successful. I would always highly maintain, highly encourage, if you will, that you have 2 or 3 people on your team that are your go-to team. Okay. If you're traveling somewhere and you're on vacation with your family, or you're on vacation just hanging out, who's going to handle the shop if something happens locally, wherever your business is? And it can derail a small business too, or a big business, and we see it all the time.
Well, is still the 2 words I heard somebody tell me a long time ago, no comment. Is that still the worst thing on business?
Well, you want to be mindful that everybody thinks people have something to hide. And so the way I would really couch that is to say, at this time, this is all the information we have. At this time, we can't comment on that issue because it's a pending issue, or we don't have all the facts yet, but we can tell you 1, 2, and 3. Sometimes it's a little bit of notation, say, right now we're learning information, we'll get back to you, or tell people I'll know more in about an hour and I will come back to you with more information. It may only be that you know a little bit more, but people in this 24-hour news cycle that we're in want you to tell them something right away, immediately. And the problem is, early on, you don't know a lot, and you speculate, you assume, you make things up that you don't know for sure, and what happens is it gets you in trouble. So I always highly encourage companies. For example, there are several companies, like for example, Papa John's. Papa John's had a really big issue with their CEO that had a lot to say about a number of different individuals and groups of people, and it totally has derailed that company. Now, of course, they're still moving along, but now they've made changes because of their crisis. Volkswagen, the same thing. They made changes because of their crisis. Chipotle, they made changes because of their crisis. So what happens in a critical business interruption, those things make a difference, and it changes the way people think or view. Now, you can always recover, but it may take you a period of time.
So have you ever seen, in your experience of dealing with companies, the chances to recover from that? Because a lot of times people feel like a crisis, they almost shut the company down.
No, there's life after it. There's life afterwards. I actually worked on an embezzlement situation with a client who had 2 locations in 2 different states, and it was basically a group that was giving this organization resources and revenue, and they thought there was some mismanagement, and they worked through those issues, but it did hurt them for a period of time, but they picked back up and they moved on. They're doing well now. I work with another client that actually was being sued with a I call it a super lawsuit. And they were very concerned about their employees and their customers and their potential customers. And so there are certain things you need to do with your board of directors, if you have one, or your governing agency, also with your employees. And sometimes just a little information, a little bit of insight can provide and reduce those anxieties that you have when you're going into a situation. When I do crisis management and planning, I talk about it almost like boxing, because when you're boxing, your heart rate's going up. Your perspiration is there, and you're really concerned and you're fixated on something. It happens because that's what happens in a crisis. It's not a normal function, and it makes you stressful. And that means you're doing things out of character. So as a business owner, we have to be thinking about what happens if that were to happen. And there's no way to plan everything, but you just should have a few preparation tactics in place.
When you start thinking about preparation, what's going through my mind is media training. Do you recommend media training for president of the company, CEO of the company, or executive officers of the company before the crisis?
I recommend skills training of how to understand the business model. I think media training is a component of that, but the media is not the only public that you're impacted with. Typically, the older school thought is that, it's all about media. Well, no, it's not. It's about the employees. It's about your stakeholders. It's about your board of directors. It's about the people who may be your customers down the road. It may be about financial people who have bonds and you're having creditors, that sort of thing. It's so many different entities and areas. The media is one spoke in that whole chain of critical crisis management. So I talk about that as well.
All right. Have you seen situations where from the crisis, their sales actually improve through the process of it? Because I heard a quote a long time ago. It was like, never let a crisis go to waste. And I think that's more in politics.
I don't believe in capitalizing on someone's, distressful situations. I believe it should be a methodical process. Now, that's a byproduct of it. Oh, well, great for them. But I mean, crisis is pretty serious. That's why you should hire somebody to help you through it. And so if it happens to be where your sales increase, great. But I mean, I go into it with a very serious myopic scope on the fact that this is a real serious business issue. And I think that we should take it more that way. Now, of course, the world we live in is more casual, it's a little bit more free, but realistically, when people say things that can be hurtful for your business or hurtful for you as a professional, it impacts you. We're not robots, we're not cyborgs. So I think it can go either way, but I think there's a serious tone that you should take when you're having a business critical interruption that could derail your business as a crisis.
All right, so if somebody wanted to contact you and employ you and contract you for your services, how can they get in contact?
Well, we have a contact us form on our website, and pretty much that can get us there at www.skyconnect.com, and it's SKYECONNECT.com. And I'm Alice Gordon on all my social media channels, so you can always find me there as well. And we have a great team willing to work with you, and we're very confidential. We take things with us, and we don't repeat anything. We actually can sign non-disclosure agreements. I have a corporate background. I've handled nuclear crisis. I've handled employee crisis. I've handled leadership crisis. I've handled all kind of crises. And so there is a blueprint and framework with them, but they're all different. And so sometimes you need to just probably talk it out first to see how you handle it before you just react. And so there are some critical factors. I call these 6 key points of what happens when you have a leader that has these different characteristics that make them more prone to a crisis. I can talk about that too, not on this segment, but if someone were to bring us on, we can do that. Talk about that too.
Well, Alice, thank you for this bonus segment, because you didn't really see this one coming.
No, I did not.
But I just kind of had this intuition, like, all these crises that's going on in the world, and business work, or one crisis can pretty much put you on life support and over with.
I talked about, just really briefly, I talked about the Roger Goodell situation, at one point with the NFL, and I made some comments and suggestions on a local TV station. So I'm more than happy to be a resource for those sort of entities as well, like this one, who just want some additional insight, because it's not something you're trained for. I handled the first Amtrak train derailment, or at least I was involved in television in 1994, I believe, when that happened. And it was a tumultuous experience, and there was no name for crisis. And so when that Amtrak train derailed and killed over, I think it's 47 people, it's been a long time ago now, it stuck with me. And so I use that as my frame of reference when I'm working with clients.
All right. Well, Alice, thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you all for watching again. And please check out my website, what'shappeningbirmingham.com. And don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thank you all again, and bye-bye.
Thank you for watching the What's Happening Birmingham video podcast. Please check out our website, app, or subscribe to our YouTube channel for the latest videos today.